Okay, to record. So, welcome to the green room. Hey, Peter, how you
Hello,
doing?
here I am.
How things go? How are
Good.
things going at OER Commons?
Oh, it's the dream. Things are good. Are you getting ready for Open Education Week already? I know I have been. You think
Yeah,
we're gonna do the same thing what we did last year?
yeah, we are. And I don't know if everybody. Hey, wait a minute! This isn't our meeting. There's other people here. What's going on?
Oh, yeah. Well, I guess we could let all of these other people in on our conversation as we plan for what we're gonna do for Open Education Week in 2026.
Okay, so a lot of people, and I won't assume that people know about Open Education Week, but it's been going on since 2012. And it's kind of, in a way, it's a conference, but it's not a conference. So instead of one organization like the great folks that are putting on this conference doing all the arranging, what happens here is everybody plans their own events around the world. And what we do at Open Education Global is we build like a big calendar that puts them all in one place. So these were like just a taste of some of the events that went on last year. And so the idea is it can be something that's totally local and in person to say like, hey, we're serving lunch and we're having our students do a talk on their use of AI or something like that. But it's also a lot of online events. But basically, it's a time of year when we ask people to share what they're doing in open education. And although it's scheduled for a week, we know the first week in March doesn't work for everybody. So we put things on the calendar that can happen anywhere from February to March. Doesn't matter when you do things. Um, the other part of it is that we have always, like I think I said in the intro, traditionally we have collected resources, and like it's the thing that we always do on the web. It's natural. And I started making web pages in the 90s, and the first thing that I remember doing is creating list of links. And I did this so many times over. In fact, I think I created a website once I called the Bag of URLs that I collected every week and sent out to people in my system. So it makes sense that we do this. And so what happened is that for Open Education Week, we did this for a couple years, and we have our own little database of resources. And there's a couple hundred things that were collected over the years. But you know what happens when you make list of links? First of all, the
I
links
do.
break,
Mhm.
and then like people probably forget where they are. Who comes back to look at them? So I kind of came up with an idea that I pitched to Peter at OER Commons and his colleagues to say, like, instead of asking people to put things in our database, what if we ask people around Open Education Week to share OER or whatever is worth sharing in repositories that are existing? Big ones like OER Commons, but there's a lot of regional ones, etc. And so this is what we've done the last couple of years about this. But maybe Peter can, because I don't want to assume everybody knows about OER Commons. Can you do a little of the overview of OER Commons?
Yeah, I sure can. So OER Commons, for those of you who don't know, is a digital public library of open educational resources. We've been around in some state, like some form since 2007. And we started off basically a person that had been funding OER for a while, or an entity that had been funding OER for a while. They were like, we've been spending this money and we don't really have eyes on where it's all at. So they reached out to my boss, Lisa Petrides, who's the head of ISKME. And ISKME is the Institute for the Study of Knowledge Management and Education. It said, hey, Lisa, can you and yours go like find all of the OER anywhere on the internet, and so that we can see where our money is going? And Lisa was like, sure. And that was a very reasonable ask at the time because, 2006, the internet was a much smaller place, a much friendlier place, I think. And so they spent a year or so searching and searching and searching and finding all of these resources. And they found a huge amount. And then the person who funded this was like, that's great. Now, could you like make this list available to everybody? And so we did. And it started off very much, Alan, like your baguette website, your bag of links website looked you very web 1.0, maybe 1.5. And over the years, it has evolved into a fully indexed, searchable database of, I would say, over 100,000 links. And we've had more than 200,000 OER, like pieces of OER, come through our doors. But since we are a library, and we employ librarians, myself among them. We make sure that as things go out of date, we deaccession them. As things move, we do our best to find the new location and update the links in the database. We have some automation now that helps us with that. But yeah, we just wanted to make sure that we have a place somewhere on the internet where anyone can go and share resources that are openly licensed. That could be public domain. That could be a Creative Commons license. We've got a little bit of wiggle room as well for things that aren't some of the traditional licenses. But yeah, we make this available to everyone. Anyone is welcome to go make an account and add resources themselves. And then before we publish them, librarians will go and look at that. We'll judge the metadata. We'll enrich it, and then we'll publish it. And then the other really cool thing about OER Commons that maybe we don't talk about enough is aside from being a digital library, we also are an authoring platform. So when you go to OER Commons, let's say that you need a place to add OER and actually create it. You have two options. One is the submit from web, and the other is OpenAuthor. OpenAuthor is a great tool that we have that lets people basically create OER with multiple sections, rich text editing. We have some accessibility features built in as well. And as long as all of the things that you put in it are yours or openly licensed, we will save it and store it for as long as we exist. And that's free as well. All you got to do is have an account. So that's a little bit about OER Commons.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think everybody knows about that, but maybe they don't, and it's worth exploring. So, and what we did last year is again, or the first year we tried that. I made a list of as many repositories as I thought of, and we said share anywhere, and people did that to some degree. But then for 2025, I kind of thought this idea, let's make a few like more structured approaches. So what we ended up doing last year, and the thing about OER Commons, they have these what are known as curated collections, and they're special subsets. So there's some common core things, there are press books, there are things Women's History Month, and this is kind of a thing that OER Commons offered. And in fact, they offered last year, they cut up a special collection, and these were ones that we were able to collect during Open Education Week last year. And when you're in with OER Commons, you get your search things, you can filter, etc. So it makes it easy to find things. And then everything that we added into this, we sort of add this little badge to their entry in OER Commons so you can see, like, look, it's part of this collection. And that's just another neat way that we worked with it. So what we're doing this year is we're setting up a new collection for 2026. And we want to invite people, well, right now even, but leading up to Open Education Week, to be able to start doing this if they wish. And the thing is, like, again, the idea is like, great. It's one thing to share it with OEGlobal for our one thing, but like if you share it with OER Commons, it goes into this vast repository, and we can still have this little mini collection that is searchable and filterable. And so it serves the same purpose for us. And I don't have to do any programming or any management of this because
Nope.
ISKME and OER Commons takes care of that. Especially what I like is when people share something through this submit from the web thing. It's a pretty easy process, and that's probably the easiest way. You have an established OER, and you put it in there. But what's invisible that I don't know what happens. What happens when you get a link, Peter? What does the OER
Yeah.
machinery do?
Yeah. So what happens is you'll put a URL in here, and when you click continue, first thing that happens is our system will actually check and see if that resource has already been added or that link already exists in OER Commons. If it does, you'll get a little thing that pops up and says, hey, this already exists. And then you can go search the database and find it. You can search the library and find it. If it doesn't, as you're showing with your own website, it
Yeah.
gives you an opportunity to start and add some metadata. So it will automatically populate things that are available. So that could be the title, for example, that exists in the HTML of a resource. The overview, if you have HTML that tagged and identifies the authors, it'll pull those automatically. And then for anything left, you can just do your best, fill in everything that has an asterisk, and that'll give us a good place to start. Lots of metadata that we collect to make things as searchable as possible. So if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see like you can choose a subject, you can add keywords, education level, all of that stuff. And then after all of the required fields are selected, at the bottom there is a continue button. And when you click that, it will take you to the next page
I'm trying to make
and it'll
sure
show you a little,
yeah,
yeah,
see,
go
see if
ahead.
I collected all the, yes, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't fill out everything. Anyhow,
You missed
bad
languages.
demo.
Yeah,
Okay, so I'm just gonna
that's all
click
right.
all the wrong. I'm doing random. We don't want you to do
Yeah,
this.
that's fine. And then it shows you a preview basically of what it looks like. So right now we've got a blank image, but our system is set up so that it will go to the site that you put in and it will take a screenshot and that will be submitted as the cover image to begin with. And then at the top corner or ish, it says submit review for
Yeah,
review. When you click that, that goes into the backend
yeah.
and it goes into a pending queue. And then every day, either me or one of my librarians, one of us will go through that queue and we'll review all of the resources that have been submitted. Sometimes we do it periodically, but when we see those, we will make sure that the resource looks good and is actually OER. We will enhance whatever metadata, fill in it, whatever gaps we can based on the resource. Usually that includes fixing the selected license because OER Commons is a repository for openly licensed educational resources. And as librarians, we have expertise to understand kind of what falls under that and what doesn't. And as long as everything, all of the I's are crossed and the T's are dotted, we will then publish it and it gets added to OER Commons for everyone to find.
Right,
That's it.
and like we know that librarians have these superpower skills. What's it like to
We
see
do. Yeah.
the flood of things coming in? Is it exciting or
Ah,
is it
man.
like
It well, it's really interesting because we get to see kind of like so a great example, for example, OER Commons is free for everyone everywhere. And in the past year, I would say we've been getting a lot of resources from Brazil. And it's really neat because like since we can see where these resources are coming from, we start picking up trends. And so we know that somewhere in Brazil, there is a school where teachers are learning all about OER and they're being encouraged to submit their resources to OER Commons as a way to share. Um, and it used to be there would be feast or famine days, and now it's just all feast. I would say every day we get at least 10, maybe more resources added. And those are just ones that exist somewhere else. And then the resources that people make an open author, we probably get anywhere between, I would say, 5 to 30 submitted a day. And it's great. It's very heartwarming to know that like there are people out there who are taking advantage of this thing that we're putting out there for folks, and they're doing it because they care about everyone else, right? So yeah, it's a blast. Yeah.
and regardless of what we're doing with Open Education Week or whatever, if you're just on your own gonna add to OER Commons, it's a good thing to do. So,
Hmm.
of course, the starting point is you have to have an account, and I'm already
Yep.
logged in, but the account creation process. If anybody wants to follow along with us, if you go to OERcommons.org, your typical thing for creating an account, was just like
Yeah.
an email and a username or something like that, Peter.
Yeah. So you go up into the top right corner. I can share my screen real quick if you like, because I've
Sure.
got a,
Yeah,
let's see.
I'll stop sharing and
All right. So on OER Commons, hopefully this is big enough for everyone to be able to see. In the top right-hand corner, we've got this little thing right here. If you're not logged in, you click sign in or register, and then you can do register to create an account. And this is it, first name, last name, email, and password.
yeah.
We'll confirm that you're not a robot. And then when you click register, your account is just created. And you will get sent a link that says to your email, like, please confirm that you exist. Once you click that, bada bing, bada bang, bada boom, you've got an account on OER Commons and you can start going hog wild, doing whatever you like. Very straightforward, very easy.
All right. So I'm gonna maybe go through the steps, and I imagine I can see everybody now that they're creating no their accounts. But like you should if you're in a position where you work with other educators, just
Mhm,
knowing OER Commons exist is one thing because I
mhm.
know when I go in, I generally get distracted when I just start looking at uh, new resources, etc. But what we ask you to do, the way it works for Open Education Week is, first of all, we have a group within OER Commons. And that's something again that OER Commons enables. And I believe, can anybody make a group, Peter?
Yeah, anyone can make a group. You'll see if you go to the big groups page, when you go there, there's a little green button that says create group. So down to where it says see all groups, and the top right hand corner, you click that button, it'll pop up a little form. You fill that form out with the information about what you want your group for. That actually gets sent to me, and I will review that, and then I will create the group for you, and then send you a lovingly written email that has
Yeah.
instructions on what you can do with the group, how to get it set up. But yeah, free for anyone with an account.
So if you're at an institution and you want to get people
Hmm.
involved, maybe you're teaching a class, you could create a group
Yeah.
for. That's really a generous offering that you
Yeah,
have.
and we get a lot of requests from like faculties of particular schools at universities and colleges. So like we have a lot of groups created from like the English faculties because they have decided that their whole English faculty wants to start like they want a place to put OER that either they are creating or their students are creating. And that's a great use case. We love seeing that. But really
Right.
anything as long as it's like a legitimate use. Like we're happy to set that up for folks.
So what we ask is that, you join the Open Education Global group, if you will, and you can actually see you can see the people who have joined. There's a bunch of discussions, which is only me, I think. So it's a quiet group. But the main thing that we deal with once you're in this group is that you can add content that goes into a sort of a shared group area, and we have these different folders where they go. So we have the folder from last year that had 71 things in it. We're starting a new one for this year. So the main thing is you're going to contribute to this group, and this is where it comes in, and it's the same process. So if you
Hmm.
want to share something that is not in OER, that's a web link you can do as we already walked through. So these are the two ways that you create content within OER Commons. But really, I think one of the easiest ways to do this is if you go into the main pool, or if you're already creating content in OER Commons that you have and you
Hmm.
want to add it to our group, or you want to add any other. Can anyone add content from anywhere, Peter?
As long as you're a member of the group,
Right,
yes.
right.
So if you are already a member of the group, and I suspect you're going to be showing this, you can find any resource on OER Commons. And when you view its overview page, there will be a little thing that says save.
Yeah, yeah. So
Uh,
I'm just
and
gonna, yeah, I'll quickly go through that. Like,
yeah,
someone tell me a subject area that they want. Come on, someone give me a subject. I'm in math, but not everybody loves math. All right, I'm gonna go into education. How about that? And so I typically come into here, and I generally, when I'm looking, I look for things that are new, because we're going to see, like, so publishing guide from UOJ. Oh, look at this. This one looks really good. Insurance, inclusive education for women. You see something nowhere comments, and you say, like, this is really relevant in 2025, or this is something worth sharing for Open Education Week. And it's as simple as saying, save it to a folder. You can save it to the group itself, but you can put it right into this folder for Open Education Week 2026. And that
hmm.
means that within our group, within here, when I come into this folder, um, and so there it is. It's the newest one added. So this gets shared with the group. So this would happen whether you find something in OER Commons or you go through this contribute group, submit from the web, or use the open author tool. It goes into this folder. And then what happens is that um, me, and if anybody wants to volunteer to be a moderator, we can do this. More or less, we can say, like, oh yeah, this is good. We want to share it to the collection. So and I have this access because I'm the manager for this group. So I can say, like, add this to the Open Education 2026 group, the OEWeek thing. And so now this now will appear within the mix here. It should be here somewhere.
It'll take a little bit of time to
Okay,
update because it
okay.
has to
Yeah.
re-index, but yeah, it will show up there.
Yeah, but the basic process, and maybe it sounds like more, steps than it is you find something or you share something to OER Commons, you send it to our group, And if it goes into the folder or I just look for things, then we add it to the pool. And that's all we want to do is see how many new things we can raise of interest to the world
Mhm.
during Open Education Week as people are thinking about OERs that either it can be things OERs that you've created. But I know like my colleague Maria Angelica, you see open resources all the time and you say like, wow, this is an excellent resource in Spanish that I think should be, brought to the attention. So it's a way of also nominating and raising the level of awareness for the other OER that exists in the world. Um, and so we typically, we start ramping up this activity in January. But I thought, given that that we had this gathering for OER camp, and that it always helps when you start something like this, when the first time people go to see it, it's not like an empty thing or it just has Alan's examples. So we're starting the pool now to collect resources related to OER. And I love that this is a collaboration that we get to do with OER Commons because it helps them and it helps us.
Yeah, definitely. And one thing, in case it wasn't obvious, is like when even if you add a resource through the group directly, that resource still ends up in the wider OER Commons collection. So it's not like you're just showing it to folks who are part of OEGlobal. It's being shared with everyone, which I think is pretty darn neat. We get a lot of folks that use OER Commons, so they will start groups on OER Commons or hubs specifically because they've created this thing, right? Like, whereas in a lot of the traditional academic publishing realm, like for journal things and all that, it feels kind of like shouting into a void, right? You spend your, 3 or 4 years of your life writing this big thing and throw it and hope someone gets something from it. Um, and like that could be satisfying in its own way to know that you finished a thing. But like with OER, the whole goal, right, is to support others and to create things that other people can interact with and can change and can adapt and remix for their own uses to benefit their communities. So folks will use OER Commons as a way to facilitate that as much as they can, and we are happy to make that happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in general, like I think, it always not surprised me, but when you go to the point of using the interface for finding OER, there's so many options for filtering and being able
Mhm.
to zero in on the kind of resources you want, whether it's by license or by learning level. It's
Mhm.
really remarkable, and it's more controls than I could have ever programmed into my little tiny database.
Mhm. Yeah, it's a lot of work. And that's one of the reasons that like ISKME employs librarians specifically is we want to make sure that these records have that metadata added. We know, like folks that work in libraries, we know the importance of metadata in terms of making things searchable. Even in this newfangled world of AI, whatever search, it's the metadata that makes these things findable. And like very small aside, we have been getting a lot of traffic or a lot of referrals from folks who are like, oh yeah, I found this resource on OER Commons because like ChatGPT told me about it. And so like that feels weird in certain ways, but like if that helps people find things, then we're happy to facilitate that and make sure that the metadata is good and accurate.
And one more quick thing. I don't know. Someone will have to cut us off when so someone will step in. That let's see. Where is this? OER Commons, we're working with them. We also, and I'm not even going into, we also have a similar setup for the OER World Map, which is another sort of global resource where people put their resources and organizations on a map. But we don't care where you share. So if you use, like a lot of people still use Merlot, and then there's all kinds of there's repositories in Finland, and we just saw in the previous session from the Netherlands. There's a lot of regional ones, and there's OER collections around the world. And so I think a lot of people, they still dream that there'll be one collection to rule them all, like one super one. And OER Commons covers a lot. But there's a couple things that make it easier. And so there's the OERSI is the open OER search index. And so instead of being one collection, it actually does a search that touches like I forget how many hundreds of different collections. And you see big ones like OpenStax, but we've got, ones from the University of Graz. and one's in universities in Innsbruck in the Netherlands. And what happens is that instead of searching one repository, it's able to search across many. So that's another approach that's good for finding resources. But if you have access to get your content into any of these repositories, then it becomes part of the larger grain within OER. So it's like sometimes we think it's just one repository or one place to share, but this idea that there's these meta search engines on top of all the ways that people find OER. We know, I still sometimes I go first to Google, and I don't really do my searching in Chat GPT, but that's another topic. But the discoverability of OER is something that is always like both a joy and a challenge. So that's about what we wanted to cover, right, Peter? Because this is our
Yeah,
meeting.
I think so. Yeah, I feel like we're very well positioned for Open Access Week or Open Ed Week next year. I am curious though if anyone here has questions. I'd love to hear them.
Yeah, I will put the link in for. Good gosh, I can't type today. I can't type any day. OEWeek.OEGlobal.org. We're kind of the theme this year that we're going with is sort of this idea of calling it like the open education town square, or I know in Mexico the word agora it comes up, which I learned about when I did work in Guadalajara. But this idea, like in big and small towns, that there's places where people gather, and sometimes our first idea was like a market, like thinking about the market where people share things. But market sometimes has a connotation that you're buying and selling things, and we're talking about just sharing things. So that's why we think about the sort of the town square of open education, where that's sort of the theme that we're running with. So it's a place for being able to find things to do, to join activities, workshops, webinars during that week, but also to share ideas and resources. So I've been blabbing a long time. Uh, any questions, or comments, or is everybody deep into OER comments? And I encourage, a lot of exploration from those that are here, but also share it with other people you work with, and you can build up collections of things that are worth sharing. And there again, there's existing collections, and you can go around this route. I just think it's fabulous, Peter, that OER Commons offers this ability to be the group. Okay, so the overview page on OERs, yeah, I will share that, Miss Michelle, because it was like not hard to find. So someone else talk while I get my browser. Here it is. Here's the list from OERSI. OERSI comes from Germany. Great to hear, Amal, that it's your first time. Um, and it's easy to think like, yeah, Peter, everybody knows about these things. And it's not true. Like, you remember learning, you discover some of these new things. And I have to say, anybody who acts like they know everything on the internet doesn't know everything on the internet. It's too big for anyone to know. And I find stuff every day that makes me go, wow, like, how did
Yeah,
I not know about that? And it's just because it's so fast.
yeah. And like even with OER Commons and me, you'd think that, yeah, I'm head of library services for this thing. I would know everything. Or I would think that everyone would like I understand that I have a very warped sense of the platform, so I know a lot about it. But I don't realize that a lot of folks understand that, for example, um, folks don't realize that for open author, multiple people can work on the same lesson. Like we have that set up as a thing. You can set multiple authors and folks can go in and change things. Although I did just see a question pop up.
Yeah, this is a great one from Ellie's asking about what would be the
Well, what would
option
be the
of a community-based participatory research project to work with OER Commons?
I mean, send me an email. I guess it depends on what you want to research. We have, let's see, we have statistics around stuff. We know how many folks are viewing resources. And since we have metadata that breaks things out by subject, We can say, like, these subjects maybe are more overrepresented in the OER landscape than these ones. We can see kind of what kind of resources are really popular amongst different groups, things like that. Many options. And always happy to chat about them. Do feel free to reach out if you have a specific idea. Let's see, living heritage for climate action.
That sounds really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Tell me more, I guess.
Contact Peter and
Yeah.
and whether like I don't know if Ellie is asking about conducting research or
Mhm.
just using OER Commons in this living to emergent research beginning OER. Yeah. Um,
Okay.
so yeah, I mean, one easy thing is you can create a group and you can organize
Yep.
things, even if you're a group of
Hmm.
one,
Yeah.
or a small group.
Yeah. And you can also, just so folks know, like, you don't have to have a group to organize things. So you can save things to your own profile. So if you aren't quite ready for a group and you just want to go through and find resources for your own reference later, you could do that. Um, oh, so would like to make research results more open accessible. So that's the other thing. Thank you for asking this question. So OER Commons, like, we are open, and like the open access movement is this big thing that covers a lot of things, not just education. It's also research. It's also government documentation, things like that. Our focus, because it's OER Commons, is mainly on education. So we would be interested, and generally our collection tends toward things that are applicable in educational contexts. That doesn't mean we only do textbooks or lesson plans or things like that. We do have things like research and data sets, but most of that has at least like it at least touches on education, right? So like it could be a data set about how educational outcomes are emerging somewhere, or OER adoption or things like that. As long as we can look at it and see, like, okay, it's obvious that this is connected to education somehow, we're absolutely happy to. For open science projects or research, there are better homes, and I think it used to be the National NSDL, National Science Digital Library, would be a repository for that, but that actually kind of folded. Um, so if anyone else in the audience has an idea, has ideas, I'd be happy to hear them in the chat, or feel free to unmute and throw them out for everyone to hear.
In general. Uh-oh, Jonathan's in the room. Hi, Jonathan. Uh, yeah, and of course, like the tip of the tip. I mean, yeah, the resources. I'm just like spinning, trying to think of the ones on open science, and so much as well happening over the last couple of years with climate action. There are big projects happening through Creative Commons. There's so many uh, uh, groups going on, people working under the United Nations SDGs. And so, yeah, I'm spinning to think of some of them, but there's a lot. So, ask during the conference here and from other people. Yeah. Yeah. Climate action for youth, even better. Gosh, I just saw a project about this and my mind is going blank. Like I
Yeah,
need
Elliot.
I need a librarian, Peter. Where can I get a librarian?
I hear you just shout into the void and one appears if you say librarian three times in the mirror with the lights off. But Ellie, it sounds like if you want a group, if you want to have a place where you can just collaborate with others to talk about that, feel free to submit a request. Would be happy to set one up for you. And like Alan mentioned when he was showing off the group for OEGlobal, you get discussion boards, you get the ability to curate things, you get the ability to collaboratively work on things. You have a space. You can set the group to be either public or private. You can make it so that either you invite folks or folks can invite themselves and then you approve them. Yeah, happy to facilitate that for you.
And thanks everybody for coming to the session. I keep expecting
Yeah.
like the organizers to come in and pull the plug, but we're here. And although my stomach is telling me it's lunchtime, but that's another story that doesn't need to be in the public sphere. But we really hope that you're getting a lot out of OER
Mhm.
Camp.
Yeah,
It's a fabulous project that is going on right now. And there's another, what, 12 hours? No, 10 hours? There's a lot more to come.
nice.
So I am going to, I've been recording.